Okay, so we're back in here with our consomme, and the raft is starting to form. So you can start to see it congeal on the top. I'm still stirring very, very gently just to make sure that at the last minute I don't get proteins sticking and scorching on the bottom. But it's almost where I want to be. There's some steam rising off the top. I'm pushing the congealed proteins from the meat and the egg off the side, and the raft is beginning to form. Now this raft right now is pretty thin and loose, not very tight at all, but as it continues to rise in temperature and as the liquid becomes hotter itself, the proteins are going to start to coagulate and we're going to end up with a thick, solid mat. You could pretty much drop a coin onto it. It shouldn't fall through. It should be fairly solid. Now let's go down here at this point and check our flame. The flame is pretty high, which I accelerated it because I was standing right here the whole time. But now I'm turning it way down low because I don't want a boil. A boil at this point would be really bad because what would happen is the bubbles would then break the raft and all of this particulate that's floated to the top would be reintroduced into the consomme and clarity would be completely lost. We'd have to start all over to get the clarity back that we wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to come back in a little while when the raft is fully formed, show you how firm it is, and then we're going to address various ways of allowing it to simmer, and then later on we'll get to the straining part. Okay, so we're back at the consomme here, and we've got a raft that's formed pretty well, and I've pulled it over one side of the burner so that we can have that convection simmering effect going on, which is what was referred to in Roman style. And what you can see here is just on the edge it simmers, but it simmers in a controlled fashion, not enough to break the raft. If it breaks the raft again, all the particulate goes back in, and then we've got a cloudy mess on our hands. Now, I wanted to show you the density of this raft once it's set up. Remember what we started with, it looked like a liquid. Now it's pretty firm, pretty bouncy. I mean, if I thought it was food safe, I would just flip a quarter or a $50 on here, but you know, there's a carat coin. And it just sits there, it'll hold it, it'll support the weight. Okay. So now, there's really not much left to do here, except to make sure that the heat is controlled properly. I'm going to probably turn it down a little bit so that I don't have to stand here and baby it. Just to give you an idea. That's where it was. That's where it is. And I'm going to let it simmer for about anywhere between a half an hour and 45 minutes. Now what we're looking for in an end result is, first of all, that it's clear. Second of all, that it has good flavor, which it should from the mirepoix and the heart meat. And then third, and maybe just as important as everything else, is we want a good body on this. We want good texture, good mouth feel. Now we're going to get that through evaporation. There's gelatin in the stock, there's gelatin in the meat, and as we evaporate away the water, we're going to concentrate that gelatin until we get a nice mouth-filling, satisfying texture. That's not going to happen without some more evaporation. At this point, and it's probably kind of hard to see if I can zoom in there, this is pretty clear. I mean, if all we were looking for was a clear liquid, we would be there if I ran this through a cheesecloth right now. But we want to develop more flavor and more texture. So the mirepoix and the other contents in the raft are going to supply that. We'll let this sit for about 45 minutes or so, and then when the straining comes in, we'll show you the finished product. Okay, so now we've got the raft set, and it's nice and firm as we've already discussed. Now's the time to add the onion brulee. To try to add the onion brulee, by the way, onion brulee just simply means burnt onion, slightly darkened on one side. You try to add the onion brulee with the raft itself, it tends to disrupt the integrity of the raft because it's too big and clunky. If you try to add it before the raft is fully set, it tends to, again, disrupt the integrity of the raft because you're trying to squeeze something big into something that's not very solid. So what I usually do is wait about 15 or 20 minutes until the raft has been set, and then I will push it aside with a spatula and slide in my onion brulee. And now it'll stay under the raft to Reason for this is twofold. We have the onion brulee for depth of color and depth of flavor. And the flavor is going to be that of caramelized onion, which is always good with beef and chicken. And the color is going to give it a substantial appearance that you might not otherwise get in something that's crystal clear as a consomme. But again, wait a little while until the wrap is fully set before you add it in. Okay, so we're back at the consomme and it's all ready to strain. I've just checked it for clarity. It looks nice and clear. There you can see the onion brulee floating beneath the broth. And I checked it for flavor and texture. The texture and the mouthfeel is nice and full. Needed a little salt, so I probably, for a gallon's worth of consomme, slid in about 2 tablespoons of kosher salt so it can dissolve. Now the next part of the action is to move it over here, is to strain it. Now what I have set up is a chinois, or a conical shaped fine mesh strainer lined with moistened cheesecloth sitting over a stainless steel container to catch the broth. At the moment, there's a flame continuing under the consomme. I'm going to turn that flame off, but once I do, I sort of have to work rather quickly. Not with urgency, but I can't walk away from it. Because now that I no longer have the bubbles breaking the surface and pushing up on the raft may begin to sink. And if the raft starts to sink before I can strain out most of the consomme, then it will become cloudy again and all the work that we did is for naught. I'm not sure if I can work the camera and work the ladle at the same time, but yeah, it looks like I'll get it. Now see how clear that is. A little particulate in there, but that's going to be strained out. We should end up with something that is crystal clear, and when I've got that, I'll ladle it into several different styles of serving bowls, and you can see what the finished product looks like. Okay, so here we've got 3 different bowls of consomme, all from the same pot. And you can see how the presentation is affected depending on what size and depth the bowl is. In a bouillon cup, which is about 4 inches deep, it appears a little bit darker. In a Asian noodle bowl, which we use typically to serve pho in my class, it's considerably darker. In a classic soup bowl that's only about 1.5 inches deep, it's much more pale. And I don't know if I can do justice to clarity here. There's a small amount of particulate at the very, very bottom. The broth itself is very, very clear. We ran a paper towel across the top of it to get the grease off the top, so this doesn't appear oily at all. And overall, it's pretty satisfactory consomme.